now the question here is, what is your lean MVP? This is for the folks who understand what a lean MVP means. If you do not understand, you can type in no. So let's take it as a question, as a concept now first, and then we'll go to the practical aspects of it with some case studies. So what do you understand as a lean MVP? The best answer in terms of definition, because we don't have definitions in this slide, would be a WinOps, a product just good enough to launch in the market and see if it is needed in the market. That is kind of one point what an MVP is, a lean MVP is. We'll discuss a lot of cases so that you'll get an understanding of what kind of MVPs can be built. In this session, we'll work on this particular case. How can we launch quickly and get traction, right? When you are talking about launching in a month, that won't support our lean MVP model. If you say we'll be launching next week in itself or on Monday or Tuesday in itself, that's what it's something which we call as lean MVP, right? So we'll try to cover that. And towards the end of the session, I believe it will help you launch quickly. Okay. In a lot of cases, if we see the perception towards funding in 80% of the cases in the chat box are going towards building the product, right? Or assembling the team and then building the product development. Team building is fine. In a lot of those cases, the hindrance, which is the product in itself, can be swayed away if we follow the lean MVP framework, which is quite renowned. We have collected these cases from kind of practical sources. We'll show you all those things. Not towards raising fund, iterating it with the customer to gain the first paid customer or to grow in terms of revenue, and not chase funding just because you want to build a product or assemble a team, because the market in India right now, the scenario at which we are growing in the startup ecosystem is a bit poor. So in case the folks are raising funds, things are not working out that well. But in the case, if we can generate revenue or if we can validate ideas in a lean way by building MVP and launching them out quickly, then the VC market will chase us. And that's the scenario which we have seen in the last 2 years as well. The folks who are doing good in terms of revenue, in terms of growth, in a very lean way, with a very small team, are getting chased by investors. So the story is changing or tweaking a bit right now in the current scenario, and hope this session will help in inducing that behavior within you. So with that note, let's begin the first module, validation and experiments. So we'll cover this in 2 different segments, actionable insights and concept. First of all, thanks to our mentors, MyGates founders, Penny's founders, Zostel, Sleepy Owl, MedPiper. Some of them have dedicated a lot of time, effort. Their sessions are also there, live and recorded, which has helped us to arrive at this point of sharing knowledge in terms of what they have done and how can we implement some of their insights. So with that note, we'll quickly begin with the concepts portion of it, and then we'll move to actionable insights, where we'll discuss about how MyGate did this lean MVP approach, how MedPiper grew in the lean MVP approach, how Penny and Sleepy Owl Zostel grew in the lean MVP approach. Before that, for the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'll cover some of the concepts, not in a boring way. We'll try to make it interesting. But here is something that you need to answer. First of all, what is a hypothesis? Research idea, just an initial idea that's need to be evaluated, or theory. Okay. Anyways, let's forget about definitions. We'll look at applications as such. So MACDs for the best answers now. There are a few cases, few questions which are formulated to help us understand what is an hypothesis. What do you think is the hypothesis behind the golden arches of McDonald's that you can see in the image over here? Why do they even exist? Shine like gold, attention grabbing. The golden color is easily visible through traffic and as such catches eyes. The hypothesis would be that they are for attention and branding, psychologically creating an impression, user attention, bright colors. Customers can easily remember the brand by that. Yellow color is used to make the customer feel hungry. Okay, still the best answer is not there yet. And the McDonald's, it's still waiting for you. Yellow signifies happiness. Okay. Does anyone of you know the inception story of McDonald's? How was McDonald's started?
Yeah, hi. Okay. So I've seen this movie on Hotstar that was the founder. So basically what happened, there was one person. This guy is hungry. He goes to one particular outlet. So usually earlier what used to happen, people place the order and it used to take like 20, 30, 40 minutes. And then they used to get a food. So this guy goes to this place, places his order for the burger, for the burger, fries and soft drink. And he, within a minute, by the time he pays the money, he gets his order. So he basically gets surprised by the way the way he have received the order under 1 minute. So, and then he asks the person to whom he, to the waiter, that where should I eat? So that is when he said, you can eat it anywhere. You can eat it in your car. You can sit in the park, on the bench of the park, at your home, anywhere. And it's basically super fast food delivered under 1 minute. So that was a basic concept. So now this guy goes back and chases the guys who have actually created this particular shop, and he basically understand the mechanism, how exactly how exactly that process is created. So the way they create the kitchen is, process 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The way by the time, everyone just does do one thing. One person is cutting the bread, second is adding the patty, third person is adding the basically the cabbage or any other stuff, it's sauces and everything. And it was a step-wise process, and under 1 minute that complete process is done. By the time user places the order, get the money, and the order is delivered within 1 minute. So that was the surprising factor. And that is when this guy, who basically, actually he was not the founder of McDonald's. There was the other two brothers who were there. Now this guy takes up the concept, and he convinces them, let's go and take it to the market. Later on, he create basically the entire concept of McDonald's into the real estate market part. So that is like a completely long story, which I don't want to take more of a time. But this was basically delivering the food under 1 minute concept that he had created, and everything around it.
Interesting. So, yeah, good answer, Vikram. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
McDonald's was born in a way that people who are driving through highway want quick food, right? They are hungry, who are going in the long drives. McDonald's used to exist in or semi-urban areas where highways were there. People were going in the long drive. And when they get hungry, they can look at this logo and quickly relate it to food. And they were delivering quick food as well in the restaurant. So that's why this golden arches were born, so that it can attract users who are hungry to get quick food. It sort of resembles French fries in a way. And from McDonald's language, this is what was their initial hypothesis. Commuters wanted to order food from their cars, as simple as that. And they were attracting those car drivers through these golden arches beside the highway. Let's move through another case. Which company is trying to showcase their value proposition over here? On point, IKEA, right? A lot of answers. Okay, it's actually IKEA. So you can see the simplicity at which they are showcasing their value proposition, that anyone who has heard about the company or the concept can relate to it. Same here, similar case. Here is the hypothesis of IKEA in the same way. People are willing to assemble their own furniture at home. And the way they have conveyed this hypothesis of theirs is that every single person can relate to this. Not everyone as such, but in most of the cases, yes. So you talk about DIY, do it yourself furniture, DIY with others. Makes sense. So, in the same way, what can be Spotify's hypothesis? Your type of music at one place, easy to access millions of music for free, customized experience. Abhinandan is close. Everyone wants to listen to music, but no one wants to buy it. Aman is saying amplify customer engagement. Look at it. It was about streaming unlimited music ad free, and they can monetize through that. Quite straightforward. Their intent is clear, on point. They want to monetize by making streaming unlimited and ad free. So, in the same way, I want you to take a 5 minute and formulate a hypothesis by 12:30. We discussed three hypotheses. One was about IKEA, one is about Spotify, one was about McDonald's. So, I want you to formulate your hypothesis. I'll unmute you so that you can explain, but try to make a one-liner out of it.
As you can see, there are marks, right? So the top mark is a little broader. The second line is a little less broader. The third line is a little less. So I am amplifying that as stress level. So the hypothesis goes as well. That's music. The more music intake increases, the less stress level. So basic is that.
Okay. What we need in hypothesis is, what do our customers need or want? Are they willing to assemble furniture by their own and be happy? Are they willing to pay for streaming music ad free for unlimited time? Or are they actually hungry in the roads while going in the long trips and willing to get some grab some quick foods? So it is more centered on what our customers need or demand, or what are their burning problems. Now, moving on, since we have our hypothesis that, okay, this is what my customers demand, or tweak it in that way that this is the problem I'm solving, this is my hypothesis. Now let's get into the execution mode or the testing mode. There are only two ways of looking at things. One is, some of us think that what if nobody wants this anyway? Let's talk about that AC cooler in bike, right? One thought process can be, what if nobody wants this anyway? Or another thought process can be, just do it and see if people want it or not, right? So which one do you pick from these two? What kind of personality do you have in terms of execution? One or two? One is what if nobody wants this? Two is just do it, which might give some insights around how it can be, right?
Okay.
That note, let's move ahead. So here is the simple build, measure, learn loop curated by Lean Startup ecosystem. If you have gone through that before, well, keep this in mind while discussing some of their case studies. First of all, in our own context, in India's context, build, measure, learn loop works in the same way that Vikram just mentioned, and that's why these cohort sessions are useful because we can learn from each other. I'm just the host or the moderator here. So when Vikram is talking about a product, he has a hypothesis right now. All of you have a hypothesis right now. What is the leanest thing that we can build? Or the way Kevin mentioned that, how can we validate this? What is the leanest thing can we build? And then measure it by shipping it to the real customer. There will be shitty feedbacks, bad product, and all those things in the initial days, and that is quite common. If we try to avoid that and keep on building the product for 2 years or 3 years, we might waste a lot of time. And that has happened with few members from our earlier cohorts as well, who have tried their own approaches. And from their feedback in itself, we realize that, okay, the lean MVP approach actually works. It saves a lot of time, even if it doesn't work, because failure is a reality in general. And then we sort of measure the effectiveness of that product. Do people actually want a shitty version of it? And we learn from that, from the customers, take feedback, and then again, go back to our drawing board, go back to our workshop and build again, and then again measure, then again learn. And this cycle goes on forever. None of the products are perfect right now. Maybe Airbnb, Bumble, Tinder, iPhone, whatever it is. They're keeping on improving, right? So there will never be a perfect product if you are waiting for that. With that note, we'll cover these 4 things today: experiments, user talks, lean MVP, and lean canvas. We'll start with experiments. And right now, some of you might be at this stage. I just have an idea. Do I have to build anything as such? We'll look at a story of Tinder to sort of see how can we answer this question. Some funny stuff that my team has tried introducing. I'm not sure how it is. This is the reality in most of the male customers at Tinder. Tinder was supposed to boost self-esteem, but it is kind of lowering it. So here is a hypothesis that one of my team member came in with, that people are actually willing to pay extra to get 500% more Tinder matches. Fair hypothesis, right? Fair problem. People are willing to pay extra to get 500% more Tinder matches. It's a hypothesis. So here's the question: how will you help my team member come up with the leanest approach to validate her hypothesis that people are willing to pay extra to get 500% more Tinder matches? What is the leanest thing that you can build to test this hypothesis, to test her hypothesis if she is correct or not? She created a landing page. She mentioned the concept in a visual way that you are a user of Tinder, use our extension or use our app along with Tinder, and we'll make sure you get 500% more matches. And she targeted the users of Tinder based on their likings around dating, let's say around birthdays of someone or Valentine's Day on Google AdWords and Insta ads. Though it is not that recommended, it is recommended to do organic, but she was smart. She got some of the users within next few days, within 7 days in itself. There are people coming from Google AdWords, Insta ad to her landing page, and there was a form in that landing page where people signed up, giving their phone number and email ID. She was tracking how many members actually signed up. And this is something which is called as a validated learning. Are the right customers or the customer persona who we think have this burning problem are going to give their phone number and email ID for free? Because that is also kind of a social transaction. Are they willing to get a message or receive an email or respond to a call where a silly problem is even getting solved, which can be burning for someone? She was tracking how many people signed up over here. And once we get these databases of people who have given their phone numbers, email IDs, then it is just about having user talk. So one of the frameworks which is suggested by Y Combinator, and we have summarized it in a really good way in our cohort wiki, which we'll share with you today. In the handbook, you can go through mom test summary. It's a book altogether, but we have summarized it so that you can quickly learn through this. Then it is all about talking to those customers or those users around their burning problem. Not asking, are you willing to pay? But asking, what have you tried before to solve this problem? Understanding their needs. How big is this problem? How exactly is it causing your social, professional life to go down? Whatever it is. Lowering self-esteem is a big thing, right? It was a funny, silly example, but if you can relate it to your own hypothesis right now, I want you to spend 2 to 3 minutes in visualizing what you can show to the users, and who are your target customers. Then what is more important is doing user conversation, talking to users, understanding their persona, understanding what do they do in their daily life, what do they eat, where do they stay, where do they live. All these things will be useful while doing targeting exercises. Where do they watch movies on? Is it like they watch Insta Reels a lot, or do they are they the customers who stay on LinkedIn or spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, so that we can target them accordingly? This is something which is most recommended. I have shared the link in the chat box. You can go through that link, Cohort Wiki, and then you can find out mom test from there. It's one of the most useful frameworks recommended by a lot of YC alumni that we have hosted. And it works in a bottoms up manner. We start with the bottom ground level stuff, talking to few customers, gaining those customers, and then we build up on those insights. Right. So moving ahead, talking about the lean MVP. When we talked about the definition of lean MVP, we talked about this, right? Removing waste, making it lean or simple. The inception of lean MVP comes from Toyota with a hypothesis that everything that doesn't create value for the customer is waste. With that note, Eric Ries, who is the founder of this lean startup movement altogether, came up with the hypothesis that everything that doesn't lead to validated learning is waste. And what do I mean by validated learning? It's as simple as what we discussed. How many people signed up? Are we tracking that? Few questions here. So in that scenario, I already can interact with the principle of difference. Definitely, Kuntal. That is one of the vague examples, a funny example as well, to understand two things. One is we need to understand who are our target customers, where do they live or stay. People who use Tinder are always on Instagram or Google, they are searching for few things over there. So who are our target customers? Where do they reside? Where can we get in touch with them? And what can I show them in terms of visual media and all those things? So if you're talking about school principles, makes sense. What should be the MVP as I'm having a service kind of business? We'll go through it, Aman. We have some case studies. For Kevin as well, he asked a question which is pending. So these case studies will answer it. As we are in B2B2C, so we'll send offline sales executive to B2B section, and for B2C, we'll run ads on. Okay, makes sense. For B2B, mostly going to their offices, visiting the founders. What should be the MVP if I'm having a product-based startup? Yeah, coming up, that's where we are going down. Keep these questions with you and let me know if they're not answered by the end. So here's something by Reid Hoffman, not a motivational quote, but can be a demotivating quote as well. If you're not embraced by the first version of your product, you have launched it too late. So I urge you to launch next week in itself in whatever version, whatever way you have or you can, not beyond the next week, because on next Saturday we'll be talking about growth or product framework, and by then if you do not have your product launched, do not have your lean MVP launched, then it won't be that useful. So I urge you to launch next week in itself in whatever way you can. It can be a simple landing page, it can be simply a document that you are taking to a B2B company owner and sort of delivering a service, whatever it is, but launch next week and remove waste, remove everything else that cannot be done within next week in itself. Put a boundary for yourself that there are only 7 days and you have to launch something, and put or keep what is absolutely important and remove everything else that is complex, that is AI based, that is tech based, whatever it is. Because if you have been thinking about your idea since the last few months, you haven't seen progress yet. But let's try to make a small progress with whatever is possible within our reach, and then let's see how it goes. And to help you with that, to help you launch in next week in itself, these are a few of the Eric Race's examples, and we'll take it as case studies so that we understand the context of it in our own way. Here we are talking about the 2000s. Imagine that scenario when the only medium to sync or transfer data were physical drives or pen drives, as you remember. Some of you must have faced this problem, resolving issue with USB drive not showing, not working. Some of you might have lost a lot of pen drives. I remember losing 5 of them during that period of time. So here is a hypothesis on the basis of this, that people are willing to pay for an online file syncing solution. I'm talking about 2000s here, which will eradicate the usage of physical drive. So there's 2000s, the same scenario, human behavior remains same. So we are trying to analyze some of the historical cases that people are willing to pay for an online file syncing solution. In the ages when pen drives are there, people are losing pen drives, drive is not showing up, some technical issues are there. And the hypothesis says that people are willing to pay for an online file syncing solution, which will eradicate the usage of these pen drives or physical drives. So what is the leanest way in which you can validate this? Again, all the questions are pizza and burger questions. You'll get some of those delivered to your home today. A lot of discussions around WhatsApp group. You can do it later. Maybe you can focus on the session, or there is a Slack channel. You can use that. Yeah. But for the time being, what is the leanest way in which you can validate these? Let's go ahead and see. This is a real case and one of the most interesting one to change our perception around building products. So here's the thing. This is a real case of Dropbox. The founders were in the same shoes as you were in the last few minutes. They knew the problem is burning. People are facing problems with the physical drives. Online file syncing solution is the next thing. Now, how exactly do they validate this, that this is real or not? Now, let's go back to your own hypothesis. The same scenario, right? Something that is changing right now in the market, something that is a burning problem right now, and you have a solution to that. And you need to validate that this is something which will work so that you can spend maybe 5-10 years of your life in building a company with that. Same exact scenario. Let's look at how they perceive this and how they went forward with building with a short video.
You've been there. You're about to buy lunch and realize your wallet is in your other pants. Or maybe you left your keys at home. The problem is organization. You need one place for everything, like a magic pocket. Putting something in the magic pocket means it's always there, no matter what you wear or where you are. The same thing is true for computers. If you have more than one, keeping track of all of your files can be a pain. Solving this problem is one of the big ideas behind Dropbox. It's like a magic pocket, a single, secure place for all of your stuff. Let's meet Josh, who is preparing for a big trip to Africa. Right now, all of his trip info is spread across his laptop, desktop, and phone. He needs to consolidate it all and is tired of having to email files to himself or move them around with a USB drive. Then he found Dropbox, which creates a new kind of folder on his computers. These folders work hard to be exactly alike, even across Macs and PCs. By adding his itinerary to his laptop Dropbox, he can be sure the same file will show up in his desktop Dropbox and even on his phone. The same thing happens when he saves a document in a Dropbox folder. The document gets updated across all of his Dropboxes. But it's not just his computers. The Dropbox website also works to be exactly like his other Dropboxes. Anything he puts in Dropbox is available on the website automatically. This way, if his Jeep takes a dive and his computer is ruined, he can still get to his files on the Dropbox website, where they're always backed up. As it turns out, Josh's Safari was a success, and his laptop made it home with lots of videos and photos to share. Instead of emailing everything, he just shared a Dropbox folder with his mom, so she could get copies of photos she wants to frame. Because it worked so well for travel, Josh made Dropbox the home for all of his stuff, so it's accessible anytime, wherever he goes.
Very different. After that experiment, let's see where Dropbox went.
Okay, my name's Drew, and we'll be taking a quick tour of Dropbox, which is a better way of keeping your important stuff synchronized across your PCs. And what makes Dropbox different is that it just works, meaning that there's no complicated setup or configuration. And if you're familiar with development tools, Dropbox is kind of like taking Subversion and rsync and making them easy to use. So here we'll walk through a concrete example. And so I just got a new laptop, and I've got some important files on my desktop that I like to keep synchronized across both machines. And to set up Dropbox, all you really have to do is install the application, which I did a moment ago, and then link it to an account. So I typed in my information there, and it brings me to this web interface where I can see recent changes to the files in my Dropbox, and I can actually get the files directly. So in addition to synchronizing files across PCs, Dropbox also securely backs them up and synchronizes them to the web. So you click on any of these files and it does what you'd expect, in case you're not at one of your computers. And as far as the Windows interface, it looks like a normal Windows folder except for these green and blue icons indicating whether or not the file's up to date. And Dropbox is done pulling down all of my stuff. And an important idea behind Dropbox is that it fits into the way you already work and synchronizes your files continuously. So I can make a change to a document, so like this text document, and I'll hit save, and actually the change will take effect just as quickly as it can be sent over my internet connection. So if I refresh the page, it'll indicate the change, and it even extends to another computer. So I've got my desktop right here, and if I open that file, I can make a change on my desktop and have it reflect on my laptop. So I'll do that on my desktop here, and when I come back to my laptop, you'll notice there's this notification indicating that the file's been changed, and when I reopen the file, you'll notice this text has changed, and likewise the web interface will change. In addition to this continuous sync behavior, Dropbox also archives past versions of each file, so you can click this revisions option.
Okay, we'll pause it here.
Okay.
But the crux of it is that they went from 5,000 users in their landing page who signed up during that random cartoon video, whatever was that, in pen and paper, where they were just trying to convey the concept that this is what is Dropbox is going to do. They didn't have the product. They had a landing page, getdropbox.com. They made people understand the concept. They made people realize that their burning problem can be solved through a shitty website, a landing page which is there. They just have to sign up with their name and number. And 5,000 people signed up over there. Another thing which was not revealed during the video was that they targeted the customers at the right places. So Indie Hacker and Y Combinator's, I think it was Reddit was there. Y Combinator's forum was active back then. They put these videos over there where developers were active. Their target customers were developers. And because of the reach of this video, people signed up. 5,000 people signed up over there. Once they got this validation, they talked to all of these 5,000 users and understood their needs, their demands. And then they curated this product that we are looking at over here in the last video. Once that video was curated, they gave a presentation somewhere and went up to 75,000 users in their waiting list. Till now, they haven't shipped the product yet. In most of the cases, we might have this understanding that the product will take $1 million to build and to sort of ship to the customers. Otherwise, customers will face this issue, that, and that, blah, blah, blah. That might actually take 2 years. And investors can also be very skeptic about investing in something at this era. Right now, when the funding bubble burst has happened and the startups which are more lean, more profitable are making sense rather than the venture-backed ones. In that case, if we have these kind of figures, the real figures where we've understood consumer psychology, we have 75,000 users waiting in our pipeline to download this app, and we have an MVP of that app in terms of a video, in terms of a shitty product in the early days. This can actually help in making sense, not just towards the investors, but also towards the customers so that they can trust the brand or the company. Yeah, interesting question in the chat box from Aryan. Living in a different city, targeting a different city. LinkedIn is the best way to do it if you want to do it for zero cost. If you want to invest in marketing, paid ads are recommended if you don't have any friends. And why don't you leverage communities? Like even Xartup is a community, right? You can ask someone who is based out of Mumbai, you have the Airtable list. It's again, will come back to your own way of doing things. You can reach out to people who have given Mumbai as their location in the Airtable, connect with them, take help them out as well. Perfect. So Ministry of Corporate Affairs has a website where you can get the database of all the companies registered in India. If you're building a B2B business, that is the best go-to-market strategy. You can mail all of the company owners at once with a video MVP that this is what our video can do. This is how the business can be transformed. It can be a service. Build that waiting list, build that interest or a pipeline of users. And then moving forward is just about conversation and pitching. So it's not at all a rocket science. So moving forward, let's move one, which is a concierge MVP. Keshav, okay. It's Ministry of Corporate Affairs, MCA website you can search in Google. They have a directory of all the B2B companies. So if you are a B2B services company, then you should leverage their database to email customers, get cold leads. So the second one is called the concierge MVP. I'll be quick over here so that we can wrap up and take up questions, but I'll give you a hypothesis to work on. Here is another hypothesis. Last 15 minutes, you can be active. Answer these quickly and we can quickly wrap up. The company's name is Food on the Table. It's a product that specializes in generating shopping lists tailored to the individual's needs and preferences. So if you remember creating a list of grocery items at your home or adding it to Dunzo manually, Dunzo, Blinkit, whatever you use, then you can associate with this problem that because it takes time to go to kitchen, to understand from your maid or mom, whoever is there, or your wife as well, and then create that list and then order the stuff. It's a hassle, right? So Food on the Table as a company came up with this idea that we'll have a product that will specialize in generating shopping lists tailored to the individual's needs and preferences. So AI will generate the whole thing altogether. Now, what is the leanest way to validate this? The same question. You can take 2 minutes and articulate your thoughts. How can you validate this idea in the leanest possible way, saving your time, saving your money, saving your efforts, and being smart at the same time? Yeah, I'll repeat the question once. So here is a startup, Food on the Table. The hypothesis is that it's a product that specializes in generating automated shopping lists tailored to individual needs and preferences. Imagine a scenario: you are ordering grocery on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, creating a list of grocery items or adding it to Dunzo, listening from your mom, going to the kitchen, talking to your maid, and then figuring out a list that these are the grocery items that I need for this week. This company is claiming that they will save your time and automatically generate a list of grocery items that you can automatically order. So what is the leanest way to validate this idea that customers need this? Or what is the leanest way you can validate this, like we are discussing? Yeah, you can put in the chat box. I'll give you 2-3 minutes. Okay, I can see some interesting answers. Mom sort of an MVP. That's interesting actually. Target the bachelor staying away from home. You are inducing emotions into that. That is good, Kundal. We'll simply ask our mom if she liked it, and then it's already validated at the ground level. Now, the target customer profiling is good from Keshav's side. People who have just moved out of their house to college, facing problems with going out, buying things, making a list. Good targeting is on point. For Vikram, targeting is metro cities, bachelors, married couple, working professional, working on other cities. Yeah, that is good. Abhijit has mentioned data profiling to track user choices and preferences. Data to generate AI results based on this data. It's a bit complex to validate. We put forward our value proposition. Okay. Connect to cook home and after collecting certain threshold data. Got it. So this is also a real case. So we'll have some real learnings on how these founders, they were quite successful. It's a US-based startup, thought through this. How lean were they? Because we are talking about successful startups, Dropbox, food on the table, and one more. We'll talk about Indian startups as well. Not sure if we'll be able to cover this today. Otherwise, we'll continue tomorrow. Did they have a website? No. Did they have a product, AI-based or data tracking, whatever it is? No. The founders sat in front of grocery stores where their customers were coming because they understand their target customers really well. These are the customers who come to the grocery stores offline with a list, and then they mention the product's name one by one to buy it from the grocer. They knew that this is the right spot to get the target customers. Like I mentioned, who are the target customers? Where do they reside? Where can we find them? And third thing is helping them visualize the product or the offering. It can be done digitally, but in this case, they have done it physically. And it is considered as one of the leanest way to execute things. The founder sat in front of the grocery shops with a table, can be with a banner as well. The service will be $10 per month once I release the product. In the meantime, how would you like your personal diet expert to create the ideal shopping list for you for $10? Concierge stands for being a service person yourself. Before building a product, can a human do that? And that helps in assessing the need that people actually need something like this. A human is doing it. Now we can build a robot or build a website or an app to replicate what the human was doing. But the need is real. People are looking for this. Then we can validate the hypothesis that people are looking for something like this. Any questions on Concierge MVP? Any thought? That's all. Okay, then let's move forward with Wizard of Oz, the third one. Another interesting example. But now we all are almost in the same page. We are thinking very lean. We are not thinking complex right now, which is a good outcome. And hopefully you'll be able to think through this. I want you to think through this within the next 1 week in itself in this leaner approach and think what you can do within 7 days. And on 5th of August, when we meet, would like to know what happened with your lean approach. Here is another approach, Wizard of Oz MVP, a company named Zappos. That's what we'll be studying right now. It was acquired by Amazon for $800 million. So very big shot. It's not something which failed and we are discussing. We'll look at their thinking process, their approach. Yeah, Keshav, you'll get the recorded sessions on email from today onwards. So right after the session, we'll be giving you that. The hypothesis is that people will buy shoes online without trying them. It sounds weird right now, but in the 2000s, when Amazon was also recently born, people were not buying shoes online. The behavior was kind of offline. And today's era as well, we can see a lot of things which will happen after 20 years. And we'll say, we were doing that like this, that is weird, right? In the same way, in 2000s, the hypothesis was that people who were buying shoes offline will buy shoes online without trying them. Right? Again, the question remains the same. If you were the founder at this stage with this case specificity, how would you validate this in the leanest possible way? You can take 2 minutes. Here is the hypothesis. People will buy shoes online without trying them. So what is the leanest way to validate this? You can imagine the scenario of consumer behavior in a world where people do not buy shoes online. Let's look at how these founders solved it. pretty similar. This is the website they had when they exited the company. But initially, they never had a website, they never had an inventory, they never had a payment system integrated as well. For D2C brands, inventory, payment, websites are everything right now. It was one of our previous guest mentoring session, which you should relate back to. You'll get a video on this. They also did this. They are a YC company right now. Customers are willing to pay for clean energy was their concept. So anyways, coming back to our Wizard of Oz MVP, the founder themselves showcased the solution on a landing page. They reached out to the target customers and they accepted order on a form. It was a landing page. It wasn't a fully functional e-commerce website. And they delivered it manually to check, to get a response from their customers, to build that feedback loop of build, measure, and learn. What is the feedback of these customers? And then they improvised on what they can do. So quite in line with your answers as well. And that's pretty much it for today in terms of learning about experiments and lean MVP. For user talks, I'll rely on you so that you can go through the link which I shared earlier. Then you have to do user talks, talk to these users and understand what are their needs, and then build a lean MVP based on that. It can be as simple as a landing page with just the concept and a type form integrated, as we discussed. It can be a video MVP where you are showing the solution and making them sign up. It can be a concierge MVP where you as a founder is giving that service to solve someone's problem. Everything can be automated. Products can be built. You can hire developers to build products. You can leverage AI to build products. But spotting those small problems which are real and genuine is where fundamentally a lot of businesses fail in the early stages. From our databases, what we have seen is the same exact scenario. So if you focus on these fundamental things of figuring out the real burning problem, that might help a lot. And then lean canvas, you can go through the handbook. There is a task. You have to create a lean canvas on the basis of your understanding, on the basis of what you learned throughout the whole week. So that's pretty much it. Bye. Take care and have a nice weekend.